Good morning, all. Welcome back to Sew Friendly and Sew. It's really good to be back. For those of you that don't know, I do struggle with pure autonomic failure, and it kind of causes a little memory lapse here and there. So I've been down the last couple of days. But I did not get any new patterns done as far as pictures and putting them out there. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a store pattern today. Kind of the same problem you have when you get old too, huh? But we have our fabrics here, nice springy looking fabrics. We have a pastel green, light lavender purple, and then of course we have this fabric. It's got orange in it, but other than that, it just totally screams spring. So those are our three fabrics we'll be using. I put a poll up with the choice of Right Hand of Friendship or the Kansas Star. And we had about 25-ish people respond, and everybody wanted the Right Hand of Friendship star block next, so we're going to go ahead with that one. So I figured out all the pieces we're going to need and the sizes of those. So what we are going to need is, out of our print, we will need 4 rectangles in the size of 4 1/4 inch by 3 inch and 4 3 by 3 inch squares. Then out of our lavender, we will need a total of 6 3 inch by 3 inch squares. And out of our light green, we will also need a total of 6 3 inch by 3 inch squares. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut those. If you, on a side note, if you are not checking out the community posts, be sure to check those out. I do my updates and so forth on the community posts to make sure I can reach out to you guys. So just click on your community tab on the Sew Friendly and Sew homepage, and it will bring you into all the posts. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cut out, and then I will meet you back here. So we have all of our pieces cut out. Might I suggest to you that you print out, screen save your photo or draw it out, so you have a printout of the star to follow along with, or you can rewatch the video 1,000 times if you prefer to do it that way. So we're going to go ahead and start. These are our rectangles. These are our purple and green 3 inch squares. And these are our printed 3 inch squares. So all of our printed 3 inch squares are going to be cut on the diagonal. So you just want to grab a little ruler of some sort, put it down on your diagonal. And cut it like that. So you have 2 triangles. So all of your 3 inch squares will be cut in that fashion. You do need a total of 8 triangles. When I cut my squares and rectangles with this print, I did cut a few extras for the simple fact that I wanted to try to make sure I got purple in every piece of fabric I was using. So like this one has it just in that corner other than the dark purple lines. So I'm putting my ruler to cut that in half so I get a little bit on each side. Each triangle will have some then. Okay, so once we have those cut in half, we're going to take our rectangles. And we need 2 done with green and 2 done with purple. So if you're using a more distinctive fabric that has a front and back side to it, you will want to place those accordingly. So we're going to go ahead and put that on there, lining up your corners and your sides. Pin this in place, knowing that we're going to do a diagonal line across there. So we want to pin them there and there, so we can still get through there with a sewing machine to sew that diagonal line. And then you're going to do 2 with the green and 2 with the purple, or 2 with your 2 colors, whatever color you choose. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get the other purple and other green one done, and then I will meet you back here. I have them all pinned together. So now we're going to take them to the sewing machine, and we're going to go, if you want to draw it on the back side, you're more than welcome. But we're going to go ahead and take a diagonal stitch across there. You could probably even use a fabric marker, whatever you have, and draw it on the front. I wouldn't use an ink pen or not like that. Chalk, tailor chalk, anything like that will work. And then draw your diagonal line and go ahead and stitch just one diagonal line from peak to peak. And once you have that done, it'll look like this. So what we're going to do is when you open this, this is going to be your one of your flying geese. You're going to flip that over and finger press that triangle, or you can bring it to the ironing board and iron it. Either way, once you get that done, you're going to open that up, take your ruler, and line your 1/4 inch mark on your ruler up with that seam, and we're going to take our rotary cutter and cut that off. And then it will look like this. And then we're going to take the same color square and lay it on the opposite side on the same top corner. And we will pin that in place in the same way that we did the last round. And then we're going to either mark that out or just sew that from corner to corner like we did on the side. And iron that open and trim that off just like this side as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get all 4 of these up to that point where they're turned into flying geese, and then I'll meet you back here. We have all of our flying geese together here. We are going to trim those up, but my hands are really shaky at the minute. So we're going to move on to our half square triangles for the center of your star. So we want to take 1 purple, 1 green, and on the back side, we are going to go ahead and mark that diagonal line in there. We are going to pin it. Okay, so we're going to go to the sewing machine, and by our line, we're going to go 1/4 inch out, sew down one side, turn it around, and sew back up the other. And we're going to do that to both of our half square triangles here. So we'll go ahead and get that done, and then I will meet you back here. Have those done, and as you can see, our lines in the middle, our seams are 1/4 inch away from that line. So we're just going to lay it down, put our ruler right along that line, and then we are going to cut that in half, and we'll do the same with this one. Bring them to the iron, and then we will iron them open. Once we have them ironed open, then we'll need to trim up all of our dog ears on them. Okay, so what we need to do is to form the center here, we're going to line up an hourglass shape. So we're just going to make a small 4 patch. Basically, we're going to flip that over. Yep, we should have done it the opposite way. So I'm going to go ahead and iron 2 of these towards the purple so we can nest our seams. We're going to go ahead and flip that down. Put a pin in that. Go to the other side. I like to nest along the way, so I know I got a nice square piece there. And then we will do the same with this one. As always, when I start sewing, when you got seams involved, I always start at the flat side with no seam. Whenever possible, we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam along both of those, and then I will meet you back here. After sewing it together wrong and picking it apart, I finally got it sewn together right. So we have our 2 halves here. So we're just going to line these up. And once again, our seams are not nesting. But we're going to nest those seams right there and throw a pin in there. We'll line up both ends and pin those. So this, I'm finding, is probably a shirting cotton, which, if you know what I mean, guys' dress shirts, the button-up ones, there's some of those thinner ones, and then when you get into the name brands, are a nicer, thicker cotton. Yeah, so that's what shirting cotton is. And I'm thinking I probably should have used this, but I didn't think it was that thin until I started sewing. When I was cutting it, it didn't seem so thin. So anyways, I'm dealing with that as well as trying to get my hands not to shake. So once we get that done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a 1/4 inch seam along all of that. iron that open, and then we'll come back and we'll start squaring up our squares and our rectangles. We have the middle ones sewed together, so we just have to tidy up our edges on these ones that we've sewn. This is how the star will look laid out. So we're going to go ahead and we'll remove all the triangles off of the 5 pieces. So right now we're just going to go through and tidy up the edges of all of our pieces and make sure they measure the same distance. So this one looks like it'll end up being the 4 1/4. However, when I was looking at some of the purples, I don't think we can get 4 1/4 out of it. So we're going to go ahead and move it down to a 4-inch. Take a little bit off of each side. So you want to make sure we got a little bit extra on each side. And we'll just trim that down. Now we have a straight line to go from. So we'll just line up our 4-inch mark with our straight line there. Okay, and we'll try this side. And sometimes we'll take that. You'll have to go back and forth and kind of figure it out. So then we're going to go ahead and do this part. And it looks like 1, 2, 3. We're just a little shy of 3 on one part. So we're going to go with, we can still get the 3 out of it. It's just a little bit shy. So we're going to go ahead and just give it a straight edge then. So we're going to go ahead and do that with the rest of these 3 as well. And then this one here, we should be able to line up the diagonal there. And we're looking at about 4 1/2. Okay, so then when we go to sew them on, of course, we're just going to put that there. So we do have to have this the same size as this to sew them on. So cut off the extra 1/2 inch around the outside. So we're going to make this 4 inches. So we'll just center our diagonal line and take a 1/4 inch off of each side. Go ahead and trim that down in both directions. And then we're going to do the other 2 sides. Okay, so now we're at 4 inches. So now when we put those on, they line up nicely. So we'll go ahead and get these all trimmed down, and then we'll start assembling our square. They're all trimmed up. I did end up going 2 3/4 for the width, for the simple fact that at 3 inches, I was shy on a few different areas of a few different blocks. So I just went ahead and cut it down to 2 3/4, which it doesn't hurt any because you're doing it all equally. So it's not going to alter much. You know, you can see where it sticks out a little bit, but we can always trim that off, or we can just sew around it because we do have a triangle on all sides. So we're going to go ahead and assemble our block in rows. So that is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, and row 5. So we're going to start with row 1 because there is nothing to attach to that right now. So we're just going to flip that up, and the corner closest to the inside is what we're going to line up with. So we're going to go ahead, line that up, and we're going to pin it in place. No more seams to match on the whole block in this step until the very end when we start putting our rows together, and then we'll have seams to line up again. So once we get that one attached, then we'll lay it back down there, flip this one over, and do the same thing. We'll line up the edges that are on the inside of the most inner part of the block first. Pin that in place. Line that side up and pin that in place. Now, if you want to keep yourself from being confused, you can go ahead and take it to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam on each and iron those open and bring it back. I'm going to go ahead and keep pinning. We've already covered this area, but I'm going to go through this one, and then we can all get started sewing on them. So first of all, I'm going to attach the center ones. So just line up those outside edges. So we got that side pinned. We'll lay it back down, flip that one over, and we will pin that one. Okay, so then that one's done for now until we get them sewn, and then we'll come back and, you know, that's pretty self-explanatory with those ones. Just center it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll get this one sewn, this sewn. I'll just go ahead and finish sewing my rows on my block, iron them flat, and then I'll meet you back here to show you how to put them together. So this is what we have so far. We have the top corner with the middle row, and then we have these 2 rows done, and then our outside corners. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to find that center, fold that triangle in half, crease that, and we're going to find the center of this, crease that, and then we're just going to put right sides together and pin that into place. And then we'll go ahead and pin down our edges. Okay, and then we'll do the same with these 2 corners here. Bring them to the machine, get those sewn up with a 1/4-inch seam, and then we'll iron them open, and then we'll come back and connect our 3 rows. We have each of the 3 rows together now. Don't worry about these little ends here. We will trim it up once we're all done. So to connect the rows, the outside rows to the center one, we're only going to look at these 2 seams here. Go ahead and nest that seam and put a pin in there. And we'll do the same over here. That's what we need to line up to make them star points look like a star point. Okay, so we're going to have a little extra there, you can see, and we're just going to, as we sew, we're going to put this side down because then we can manipulate the top. So as we're sewing along, we're going to snug that up a little bit as we're sewing, so then it will meet up. So we'll go ahead and pin these ends. And then we'll go ahead and take that sewing machine, do a 1/4-inch seam, iron that flat, and connect that side and sew that on. And then we'll iron that open, come back, and then we'll get it all trimmed up, and it'll be ready to go. Okay, we have that all sewn together and ironed flat. I do see a mistake on mine, but I'm not going to worry about it because I'm not adding this into the quilt because of it being so thin and it's puckering everywhere and whatnot. But if you look at these corners, they're totally lined up. But when you turn around and look at these, they're off a little bit. Remember, I had that one seam that didn't want to nest right. So that went off a little bit on that one. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to square this up. So all we're going to do is take our ruler, line up. I just line it up to the corners because the corners are the shortest length on them. And then I just trim that off. I should say they're usually the shortest length on them if it's done right. Okay, so we ended up with a block that is 9.5 by not quite 9.5. It's just a hair under 9.5. So about a 9.5-inch block. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I like the design of this one. A little more complication to it, but it looks nice. I definitely like the inner arrow in between the star, like that one done with different colors. It kind of reminds me of a sawtooth star or an Ohio star otherwise, with the points going out to the corners versus up and down. But I do like those arrows. As always, guys, if you found this video useful, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. It really helps our channel grow. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe because we'd love to have you here at Sew Granny Sew. Thanks all. Have a good day. Bye.